Welcome to Catholic Ed for All, your weekly insight into topics of special education in Catholic schools. My name is Dr. Raul Escarpio, and I invite you to join me each week as we learn how to be more inclusive in Catholic schools and continue to live out St. John Paul II's message of open wide the doors to Christ. Many thanks go out to RCL Benziger, who is generously sponsoring this podcast. RCL Benziger enriches the worldwide Catholic community by providing the most engaging and highest quality resources, programs, and services rooted in the rich and diverse tradition of the Catholic faith. And now, on to our show. On the show today, I am joined by Mr. Paul Maestranzi, principal of St. Pius V School in Lynn, Massachusetts. Hello, Paul. Welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
Hi, Raul. Thanks for having me on.
I'm so glad you can be here today, Paul. Paul, can you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am the principal here at St. Pius V in Lynn. I've been at St. Pius V since the mid 80s, the mid 1980s, and primarily in the role as a teacher. I've been the principal for the last 18 years. And during this time that I've been at St. Pius, I met my wife, Sherry, who happens to be the kindergarten teacher here at the school. So I also am involved in adult education at a local community college, North Shore Community College, where I have taught English as a second language at every level and in every skill area since 1990.
Fantastic. So we already have things in common. I was joking with Paul off air that we are one stick away from having the same name, right, Paul? And
Yeah, right.
we are both. It seems now I teach at the college level as well. I mean, we're not a community college anymore because we have some 4-year programs, but I prepare special education teachers. So fantastic, Paul. Nice to see that we have some things in common. So I always ask my former teachers, what grade did you teach at the school?
So I've been fortunate. I've taught in the very early elementary. I taught kindergarten for a year, taught grade 4 for a number of years, and then moved to the junior high where I taught grade 7 and grade 8. So I've had a kind of a broad experience. Most of that in the middle school there was primarily teaching English language arts.
So what is the main difference between you teaching kindergarten and you teaching middle school? What was that main difference? And you're laughing already.
Yeah, I'm more afraid of the kindergartners. That's probably the biggest difference.
No, you're
You would
not.
a lot of people see it the other way around. You know, I have teachers, if I call in a sub, oh, I don't want to do 7th and 8th grade, but I'll tell you, they're the ones who need us the most. And as long as you go in with no fear, you're really fine. They're really awesome kids. My best years teaching were in those middle grades.
Well, they say it's like the ocean. You never turn your back on it, right? So,
You're right.
but I'm sure as a principal, you can also appreciate how important the kindergarten level is. I'm always reminding my principals that they should have their best teachers teaching kindergarten because if you set that foundation, then they'll be set. Would you agree with that?
It's so true. It's so true. You know, and all through. I mean, beginning with kindergarten, but I mean the routines that are set there, establishing positive relationships, and our kindergarten teachers do a great job with that. It really does set the stage for a long course of excellence, and it becomes a model for the whole school. Very often, our kindergartners are the model. I have no hesitation saying to a group of 4th graders who might be not quite in the line that we want them to be as they're filing through the school. I just remind them, have you seen the kindergarten line lately? If you can do it then, you can do it now.
If they can do it and you did it
Yeah,
before, you can do it again. Just remember.
absolutely.
So, what does St. Pius V School look like in terms of population and staff? Can you tell me about your role there and its diverse students?
Sure. So I am the principal, as I said, and I also teach one section of reading. It's really kind of the purpose is to kind of reduce the class size. So
Oh,
we have some larger cohort classrooms. And because of that, we try to fill in with part-time people who reduced that class size during reading and math. So just to be clear, in my third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grades, which are the homeroom size is large, they're all supported by either one or two part-time teachers who will take a section of reading or a section of math. In some cases, those classes are support classes. They're more than just reduce the class size. They're specifically aimed at providing extra support to learners who might need that. As a principal, naturally, I'm busy. I'm very happy to be teaching, though, even though it kind of takes out 40 minutes of my day, because I never forget then what it is to be the teacher. And I think administrators really need to know that. It'd be nice too some days if I swapped with a teacher, let them be the administrator, so that the teachers could know what it is to be the administrator. I have a wonderful faculty. The school itself, the city of Lynn, it's a very ethnically diverse inner city kind of quality. And we have probably, well, I'm going to say it's more than a third Latino, Hispanic origins, and then probably another 25% that would go across African American, African national, immigrant, African immigrants, as well as African American, and then Asian, probably the smallest group of which would be Asian, and the rest, your typical, white, blue collar working class. Lynn is very much of a working class city. The city itself was for many years a shoe city, and then the General Electric was here for a lot of years. In its origin, this school was primarily a white Irish school. When I came here to teach fourth grade, it would have been rare to see anybody other than a white face. Most of them were Irish or Italian, and most of their parents worked at General Electric. Since then, since those mid-'80s, naturally the demographic has changed. And we're very, very happy to be in Lynn, where there's such rich diversity, because we feel that it's a true gem, it gives us something that you can't get if you're not in a place where there's diversity.
What a rich history, Paul. What a rich history that the town and the school has. I was joking when you were saying, I was thinking to myself when you were talking about how you actually teach a class. I cannot tell you how many times in my career I've heard, well, if you only taught a class, you would know exactly what I'm going through. And yeah, they can't use that with you, can they, Paul? Because you could just say,
I do know what you're going through.
I know what it is to get my grades in on time. I haven't forgotten because I'm a principal, because I have to turn in my grades on time. I know what it is to lesson plan. This is like, I hope a lot of principals are paying attention right now, because you're setting the bar high right there, Paul.
I tell you one other really critical thing for me in terms of my career here is, first, I'm the only one of 10 Irish Italian Catholics who did not attend a parochial school. All of my siblings, even those who were in the suburb. And so the last place I thought I would have landed, and I was really very blessed to have landed at St. Pius. The school's entire history was under the parish, of course, worked with the Sisters of St. Joseph of Boston. Right. And I really want to raise their flag. I am the first lay principal, and I'm the only non-CSJ. So I've carried on their tradition, and having worked with them in the mid-'80s, it really developed a lot of my pedagogical skills that are now kind of a foundation for me. And I'm proud to be carrying on the tradition along with the rest of the lay faculty here in doing the ministry that these sisters did, albeit in very different kind of circumstances.
Fantastic. And I don't know if you're aware, but every time you compliment a sister, you get bonus points in heaven. So you're like, you're tallying everything up. You're hitting all the boxes right now. So we're setting, the Lord is actually rolling his eyes at me right now a little bit for saying things like that, but let's move ahead. So, I heard you just completed an 8-credit course with Boston College's Lynch School of Education about serving exceptional learners in Catholic schools. Is that correct?
That is right. So I went to a presentation that was at the Catholic Schools office here in Braintree, Massachusetts, under our new superintendent, and she's been very good in terms of trying to bring resources to principals and to faculties in the Catholic schools in the diocese. So the gist of the whole thing was, IDEA, all of the title monies that are available to us. And so it was a really, really great seminar. This was 4 years ago. One of the presenters was Kristen Melly. So she's the director of professional development at the Roach Center for Catholic Education at Boston College. And she presented this 8-credit certificate course, which Boston College was discounting, and which I believe the Catholic Schools Foundation was trying to also help at that time with, helping pay for the courses. Basically it's 2 3-credit courses, 2 1-credit courses, and offered the way any college would offer them. I really, when I heard about it, I really wanted to go ahead with it. My issue was sending one teacher this summer, one teacher next summer.
Right.
I really felt that the best way to take it in and to really have it get rooted in the school and within the culture would be to do it as a cohort. And so I approached Kristen and asked her, is there any way we can do it? And it took a while before Kristen and I really were able to work something out. She had to work with her directors. I had to work naturally with my faculty. But ultimately, 2 years ago, we began with a 1-credit course in Universal Design for Learning.
Beautiful.
And that was followed by another 1-credit course that was really basically kind of bringing the Catholic social teachers in the formation element that you need to use with any learner, but particularly maybe learners who need support. Then beyond that, then the 2 3-credit courses, one of them was a behavior management for students with exceptional needs, and the other one was, strategies for dealing with the variety of learning profiles that come our way.
Fantastic. And when you say you did a cohort, how are you able to lead your staff through this process? I mean, how many people are we talking here, and things like that?
Well, initially it was 20 full-time faculty who were asked to do, and then because some of them did not stay over the course of the 2 years, it ended up being 16. We received certificates for this program just last month. I started talking with the faculty about it as soon as I thought it could happen, and I tried to let them know that we were going to do this, and that while it would be great professional development for them, a definite need for the school. And so I think they were on board about that. There was time involved. So we did it in a number of ways. We cut back on a number of faculty meetings, and we try to schedule in time there. Our typical professional development is done through PLCs, professional learning communities, and we use a tuning protocol, and that's really kind of the center of our PD. And our professional development here is usually done in a day long rather than early release. We have no half days other than the one before Christmas and the last day of school. All other days are full days of school. That's really just to really accommodate the needs of families nowadays. So we don't have any early release days other than those two. So our professional developments tend to be very rich because it's a full day. For example, the Friday before Martin Luther King weekend was a full professional development day. So while we were doing these courses, those days were slotted on. We worked individually with each course professor to do some of it online. So it was sort of a blended approach where there'd be on-site meetings blended in with then some online work. In addition, we have something called what we call a block level. And so usually our tuning, so what we do is we call in 4 subs, and then in that 90-minute period, there are 3 90-minute periods in the day, and those 4 subs rotate around, providing 4 teachers at each level to take PD time. Usually it's the tuning protocol. In this case, we use that time in order for teachers to kind of complete assignments and so on.
Fantastic. So it's very thorough, very focused, I see, and there's no wasted time. So I'm sure your teachers appreciated that if you were going to do it, you might as well do it correctly. Can you share some lessons learned from this certificate program?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, to do it all together, there was nothing better because it really allowed us to work, and really we were like a lab school in this respect, in that we had real kids with real needs, and so our projects tended to go directly toward them. I think the instructors like that too.
Yes.
They're very often working with people who are not even in a classroom. So that was a great learning for us to kind of bond. Although we're pretty tight with each other and very close with each other and supportive, I think it really helped us to see our own learning styles and differences. It really opened my eyes in that respect. Probably the areas, students with real social, emotional kind of issues, kids maybe who are, on the spectrum, a
Right.
lot of attention deficit. Those are probably the three areas that really got beefed up. Naturally, we've tried real hard to accommodate reading deficits and disabilities for a long time, and that really goes back to before I was the principal. So we've had something in place there, although it needed a kind of a rejuvenation. Math is another area where we haven't supported math as well as we've supported reading over the years. But in those two, the cognitive components were also important. We developed a child study team who meets every 2 weeks. We have a process now for teachers to refer into this child study team. Then a member of the child study team will go out, observe the child, kind of look at the teacher's concerns, maybe make some recommendations. If necessary, within the team, we'll decide let's try to do something very specific here. A behavior plan, maybe that includes, the parent, the student, the teacher, anybody in all the constituents, and then hopefully avoid a referral to the public schools where they come in and do the assessment. Sometimes that's what you need to do, and
Right.
that's what we do. And then a member of this child study team, as well as the classroom teacher or any support teacher who might be working with an identified student, would be at what we call the IEP, or the core meeting.
Right.
And usually the city of Lynn's pretty good. They come in and they do the meetings right here.
Fantastic. Look at you talking all the special education language. Look at you. I mean, you can tell that the program. So really quick, can you tell me what some expectations? I know you started telling me a couple, but what is your hope now that you've completed this program? Can you tell me that real quick?
Well, I'll tell you, at our last accreditation cycle, one of the issues was, how do we identify the right kid for the school when we're screening new applicants? And so I think this has broadened our ability to take in more kids, carefully, of course. We want always their needs to be met. But I think, because we did this together and because the teachers sat in the same room with the administrators working next to each other, I think it really made us a team who can really be at the table to do the thinking that we need in order to address every kid's need. We want every kid to feel welcome here. We want every kid to be formed in the faith here. And we don't want to eliminate a kid who we can address their needs if we just widen the scope and widen our own kind of toolbox in terms of addressing whatever needs that might be there. So with that said, I believe we could easily say we can accommodate most moderate special needs and do it very well. Because many of the things that are built into any Catholic school are very often those things that you see coming up on an IEP, a routine that will be satisfactory to the kid. We're known for having strong routines, especially if there's anxiety or social emotional. We try to model Christ. So that's love, right?
Amen.
So,
Amen. Yes.
children experience that.
Fantastic. And because you had all the staff doing it, the full-time staff, you had total staff buy-in because they were there, and they saw you and your administrators doing the job as well. So I'm sure that helped greatly. So with that being said, Paul, my final question to you is: now that you've completed the program and you've learned so much, both you and your staff, what should Catholic special education look like?
Hmm. Well, I would hope it would look at least like what we're doing. I think there's quite a bit more we could do. We don't have any certified special educator here, and that was part of the point of why we did this. I mean, while we're not certified, we've got a much richer background in understanding kind of the broad. We can take a broader perspective. Catholic special education should look like where we can address these needs, including even contracting with a family who maybe they have a child who needs a one-on-one aid, okay, and that's what comes out of the and that's what comes out of the IEP. So we say to the family, look, we're willing to find somebody who'll fund part of this salary for an aid if you're willing to pay a little bit more in your tuition, so that we can actually bring this child from K all the way to 8. And as long as we're feeling that the child is successful and we're meeting the goals, then it's a win. And wouldn't it be nice if that could be the vision, that where we really could address every special need that they would in a public school, especially one that would be really severe like that, maybe a child who really needs an aid one-on-one. Guidance is another area, is huge. And, we have a part-time guidance counselor here. If that could be a full-time position, budget allowing, it definitely would be something we would do in a second.
Fantastic. As it should be, Paul, as it should be, meeting the needs of all of God's children. So with that
Right.
being said, Paul, I want to thank you. I wish you nothing but prayers and blessings as you continue your mission as principal and exceptional learner extraordinaire, trying to meet the needs of everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
And thank you, Raul. It's been a pleasure talking with you this afternoon.
Well, that's it for this week. If this podcast was a blessing to you, can you please head over to iTunes and subscribe and give us a review or a rating? It really does help other Catholic educators find the podcast and use it as a resource. Thanks again to the amazing people at RCL Benziger for generously sponsoring this podcast. Check out their new resource for Catholic schools, Blessed Are We, Faith in Action, which enables teachers to share the love of Christ with children who have special needs. Visit rclbenziger.com to learn more. Join me again next time as we continue to advance God's kingdom by including all of God's children in Catholic schools and faith formation. Until then, this is Dr. Raul Escarpio. Thanks for listening, and may God bless your day.